You were never meant to be poor. You were programmed to believe that struggle is noble, that silence is strength, that obedience is peace. But it's all a lie. You are stuck in a system designed to keep you weak, broke, and quiet forever until you wake up and take everything back. They designed it beautifully. You wake up every day thinking you're making choices, believing you have freedom, but you don't. You've been programmed since birth to obey, to submit, to follow the script handed to you by men who never wanted you strong. They gave you cartoons when you were a child, distractions when you were a teenager, debt when you became an adult, and guilt the moment you asked, "Is this all life is?" You weren't educated, you were conditioned. They never taught you how to make money, how to control your emotions, how to build power, or how to lead your own life. No, they taught you to memorize answers, fear failure, and wait for permission. They taught you to chase safety, not strength. And now you're stuck in the psychological trap, the invisible prison built not of steel, but of stories. And the scariest part? You defend it. You fight to protect the very system that keeps you weak. Look around you. Everyone is tired, everyone is lost, and yet no one is allowed to speak about it. You're told, don't complain, just be grateful. Grateful for what? For waking up in a life that doesn't feel like yours? For going to a job that drains your soul? For smiling while your dreams rot inside of you? They want you to believe that this is normal, that settling is noble, that ambition is selfish, that masculinity is dangerous, that speaking up makes you toxic. They whisper it into your ears every day through your phone, your news, your friends, your influencers. And when you start to feel the anger rising in your chest, that raw, ancient fire of wanting more, wanting freedom, they medicate it. They call it anxiety. They call it depression, and they tell you the solution is a pill. Here, take this, calm down. Don't ask questions. But the truth is, you don't need pills, you need purpose. You don't need sedation, you need direction. You don't need to be saved, you need to wake up. The game was never meant to be fair. And that's exactly why you can win. Because once you realize the trap is real, you can stop pretending it's not. You can stop waiting for permission, for luck, for someone to hand you a life worth living. No one is coming to rescue you. There is no superhero. There is no miracle. There is only the man in the mirror and the war he decides to fight. And the moment you say, I'm done living like this, you flip the entire board. You become unpredictable, dangerous, free, not because life gets easier, it never does, but because you become harder, sharper, colder. You build discipline like armor. You build skill like a sword. You become someone who doesn't just survive the system, you transcend it. The trap was designed to keep you in a loop. Work, consume, obey, repeat. You were never meant to rise above it. But here's the truth they don't want you to hear. You were never meant to stay small. You were never meant to live for weekends and retire at 70 with a broken body and a numb spirit. You were built to conquer. You were born with the capacity to dominate your space, to provide, to protect, to lead, to influence, to shape reality with your actions. That power still exists within you. It's just been buried under years of lies, doubt, distraction, and comfort. And the world is terrified of what happens if you wake up and find it. You think breaking free is impossible? No, it's inevitable if you decide it is. The trap only works as long as you believe it's real. Once you challenge it, once you look it in the eye and say, not me, it loses its grip. That's when you become unstoppable. The pain becomes fuel. The struggle becomes a ladder. Every failure becomes a forge. And slowly, brick by brick, you build a life that belongs to you, not to them. A life of strength, not softness. A life of clarity, not confusion. A life where you answer to no one but your own standard. But here's the catch. It won't be handed to you. You will have to suffer. You will have to bleed for it. You will have to lose sleep, be misunderstood, be mocked, be alone. But in that fire, something sacred happens. You become the version of yourself they told you was impossible, the one they tried to silence, the one they feared you'd become. And when you do, you realize the trap wasn't just meant to control you. It was designed to test you, to see if you'd fold like everyone else or if you'd rise and destroy the system that tried to break you. I remember the exact moment it hit me. I was in a deadbeat apartment, mattress on the floor, no heat, surrounded by dust and silence. I had just come home from another pointless job, staring at a cracked phone screen with messages from people pretending everything was fine. They post about their weekends, talk about their vacations, share the highlight reel, but deep down, I knew it. They were as empty as I was. Nobody was winning, everyone was just coping. That night, I sat alone in the dark and asked myself one question: is this it? Not because I didn't have ambition, I did, I had fire. But the world I'd been dropped into was built to extinguish it. Everything I touched was designed to make me settle. The job, a leash. The friends, comfortable slaves. The distractions, endless. They fed me just enough pleasure to keep me from revolting, but not enough power to change my life. It was like living inside a beautiful cage with golden bars. And they called it freedom. And I started seeing the pattern. Every time someone tried to break out, they were punished. The moment you start talking about greatness, about legacy, about escaping mediocrity, the people around you turn into enemies. Don't work too hard. Just enjoy life. You've changed. No, I didn't change. I woke up. And that's when I realized the trap isn't just built by governments or media or systems. The trap is built by the people you think love you. They're not trying to hurt you. They're just scared you'll rise higher than they ever did. Because if you break free, you remind them that they never even tried. That's the part nobody talks about. The hardest chains to break are the ones tied to the people you love. The ones who keep you small because they're terrified of being left behind. But once you taste the truth, you can't go back. I start questioning everything. Why was I working a job that drained my soul for just enough money to stay alive? Why did I listen to people who were broke, miserable, and lost? Why did I care so much about opinions from men who had nothing I wanted? I realized I had been trained, not taught. Get a degree, get a job, save a little, retire at 65. That wasn't a plan. It was a death sentence. A script handed to millions to keep them predictable, passive, and poor. They tell you money doesn't buy happiness, but guess what? Neither does being broke, and at least money gives you options. They say chasing greatness is selfish, but mediocrity helps no one. And they try to convince you that staying small is humility, when in reality, it's cowardice dressed as virtue. There was no single day I became powerful. It was a war, a long, brutal war inside my own head, waking up every morning and refusing to accept the world they gave me. I built my mindset like a fortress, brick by brick, thought by thought. Every hour I spent working on myself was a rebellion. Every book, every workout, every sacrifice, it was me fighting the system they swore I'd never escape. And here's what nobody tells you. You don't need to be perfect to start. You just need to be tired of living like a slave. You start when the pain of staying the same finally outweighs the fear of changing. That's when your evolution begins. Not with motivation, but with disgust. You get sick of watching others win, sick of watching time pass, sick of lying to yourself. And when that disgust becomes your fuel, you become unstoppable. I didn't have connections. I didn't have support. I didn't even have a backup plan. All I had was an unshakable belief that I was meant for more. And every time the world told me no, I said, watch me. Every time I failed, I took notes. Every time they laughed, I got stronger. The trap tried to break me, and instead it built me. Because when you stop looking for comfort and start looking for challenge, the game flips. The pain becomes your compass. The isolation becomes your sharpening stone. And your old life, the one filled with distractions, weakness, and excuses, becomes a warning sign, not a home. This is what they don't want you to understand. Your greatest weapon is the decision to never go back. The moment you burn the bridge to mediocrity, you're dangerous. Because you no longer care about fitting in. You're no longer playing for validation. You're moving with purpose, and purpose terrifies the system. A man with purpose can't be bought, can't be bribed, can't be controlled. And that's why they try so hard to keep you in the trap, because if even one man escapes, he lights the way for 1,000 more. And I promise you this, once you taste what freedom feels like, you'll never again tolerate the chains you used to call home. Fear is the currency they use to control you, not bombs, not prisons, not whips. Fear. Quiet, subtle, persistent fear. They don't need to lock you in a cage when they've trained you to build one around yourself. You're scared to quit your job because they told you that chasing dreams is risky. You're scared to speak up because they convinced you that conflict is dangerous. You're scared to be different because they made normal the goal. What they really want is a compliant man. Someone who obeys without asking why, who suffers quietly and celebrates just surviving another year. That's the game. Keep you numb, keep you scared, keep you weak. And convince you that weakness is wisdom. But here's the truth. You cannot be free until you're more afraid of being average than you are of failing. That shift, that mental rewiring, is the beginning of power. And you can see it in every part of society. They push comfort like it's salvation. Entertainment is endless, food is delivered, dopamine is on tap, but power is hidden. They teach you about algebra, but never about money. They glorify obedience, never risk. They hand you a phone, give you access to billions of people, but train you to scroll like a zombie instead of build like a warrior. The trap is psychological. And the worst part, most men never even realize they're in it. They laugh, they party, they chase distractions, and they think they're winning. But deep down, in that quiet voice at night when no one else is around, they know. They feel it. There's more, and I'm not living it. That's the first crack in the armor of illusion. That's the signal that you're not crazy, the world is. The urgency is real. Time is the one asset you can't buy more of, and yet they've trained you to waste it. The average man will spend over a decade of his life staring at screens. A decade. He'll pour his energy into watching other men succeed while he stays stagnant, broke, and invisible. They've built a system where wasting your potential is normalized, even celebrated. Take it easy. You've earned your rest. No, you haven't. You haven't earned rest until your family eats forever. You haven't earned peace until your legacy is unshakable. You haven't earned freedom until no one can pull the plug on your life with a phone call or a paycheck. And yet most will keep dancing in the cage, too scared to test the door. Why? Because they've been sold the lie that discomfort is danger. But in reality, comfort is the real enemy. Comfort is the slow drip of poison that kills ambition. The system is elegant. It doesn't need to force you, it just needs to distract you. Every time you feel that urge to change, they flood your world with noise, new shows, viral trends, endless opinions, all designed to occupy your mind so your soul stays asleep. A man without clarity is a slave to whatever is loudest. That's why you've got to build discipline like armor. You've got to starve the distractions and feed the fire. You think the world is against you? Good. That's how it should be. Pressure builds diamonds. And the moment you start to rise, really rise, they'll come for you. They'll mock you, doubt you, hate you. Not because you're wrong, but because you're reminding them of everything they gave up on. That's the cost of greatness, rejection. But rejection from weak men is a blessing. Every enemy becomes fuel. Every setback becomes a tool. Here's what they fear the most: a man who no longer fears them. A man who's broken their programming. A man who thinks for himself. When you stop outsourcing your beliefs, when you start trusting your instincts more than their headlines, when you act without waiting for permission, you become uncontrollable. And that terrifies them. Because one man standing tall exposes 1,000 on their knees. That's why they call ambition toxic. That's why they label strength arrogance. Because once you realize how powerful you can be, you no longer need their narrative. You write your own. And when you walk through life with that level of clarity, you become the glitch in the matrix. The one thing they can't explain, predict, or suppress. And let me make one thing clear. This isn't about anger. It's about awakening. You don't need to hate the world. You just need to stop letting it shape you. You need to reclaim your mind like you defend your home. Because your thoughts are the software of your destiny. And if you don't program them, someone else will. The moment you decide that no one is coming to save you, that's when you unlock your power. Not because you become perfect overnight, but because you finally stop waiting. Waiting is the virus. Action is the cure. And once you choose action, the trap begins to crack. You'll feel resistance, pain, fear. Good. That means you're in the fight. That means you're finally alive. Every day you wake up and choose. Whether you see it or not, you either move 1 inch closer to sovereignty or sink deeper into submission. And here's what they'll never tell you. The world isn't designed for you to win. It's designed to extract from you your energy, your time, your focus, all harvested to keep their system alive. You're not poor because you're lazy. You're not weak because you were born that way. You're poor because the system made it profitable to keep you that way. They benefit from your confusion. They thrive off your stagnation. A man who questions nothing is easy to cage, but a man who asks, why am I being told to accept this? He becomes dangerous. Because the minute you start asking, you start waking up. You were never supposed to be a cog. You were never born to be quiet, obedient, and average. Look around. Every billboard, every app, every celebrity is teaching you to numb the fire inside. Relax, chill, enjoy yourself. But every man who ever built an empire, forged a legacy, and etched his name into history rejected comfort like a disease. They knew something most men forget. You do not find peace in ease. You find it in conquest. The world wants you distracted. They'll give you endless escapes as long as you never escape them. They'll let you party every weekend as long as Monday you clock back in. They'll let you chase pleasure as long as you never chase purpose. Because the moment you taste real purpose, you'll never kneel again. The moment you feel what it's like to take full control of your time, your money, your mind, you'll burn the cage behind you and never look back. But they know that. That's why the trap was built. To break your spirit before it even matures. From school, you're taught to sit still, follow instructions, memorize useless facts, then ask permission to speak. That isn't education. That's indoctrination. You're not being trained to think, you're being trained to obey. The goal is simple. Domesticate men. Tame the wolves while they're young and they'll grow into house pets who bite only when told. But here's the truth you feel in your gut. You were never meant to be tamed. You were meant to lead, to fight, to conquer. You were built for adversity. That anxiety you feel, that pressure inside, it's not brokenness, it's potential, suffocating. It's greatness screaming for air while you bury it under fear and routine. You are not lost. You're just living a life that's too small for your soul. And here's where the shift happens. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You stop asking for motivation. You stop needing permission to evolve. Because now you see the game. You understand that every day you do nothing, the trap grows tighter. Every time you hit snooze, every time you scroll instead of build, every time you say tomorrow, you're reinforcing the prison. But when you decide to wake up and do something uncomfortable, something painful, something they said you couldn't, that's when the chains begin to snap. You fight your biology, you train your mind, you outwork your excuses. You say, if this world was designed to keep me weak, then I will become so powerful it breaks trying to contain me. That's when you start to feel it, not pleasure, not happiness, but freedom. Then raw, unfiltered, silent confidence that can't be gifted or faked. You earn it. Every rep, every dollar, every rejection you endure and keep moving. Every late night when no one's clapping and you're still building. And once you taste that self-made fire, everything changes. Your posture shifts. Your standards rise. You stop explaining yourself to mediocre men who gave up on their own lives. You no longer tolerate weak conversations, weak habits, or weak surroundings. You become relentless. Not because you're angry, but because you've seen what's possible. You realize, I am the author of my reality, and this is chapter 1. You stop being a follower of trends and become the creator of momentum. You stop reacting and start designing. And the beautiful part, no one can take that from you. They can take your money, your possessions, your reputation, but they cannot take your discipline. They cannot take your resilience. And that's where true dominance is born. Not from noise, not from validation, but from the silent, brutal, unshakable force of a man who chose to rise. So ask yourself right now, are you playing their game or writing your own? Are you living a life you were assigned or one you've architected? The system will never reward the rebel, the creator, the self-made force. But that's the point. You're not here to be rewarded by them. You're here to transcend them. You're here to build a life so unshakable, so powerful, that the system becomes irrelevant. And when you get there, you don't owe anyone an apology. You owe it to yourself to never return. You owe it to every version of you that doubted, that hesitated, that almost gave up. You owe it to the man who stared in the mirror and asked, is this all there is? Because once you realize the answer is no, once you understand you are the answer, the trap is done. Now comes the question most men avoid until it's too late. What are you going to do about it? You've seen the lie. You felt the weight of a system not built for your rise, but your quiet compliance. And now that it's been exposed, now that the mask has fallen, you have only two choices: break free or stay broken. Understand this: no one is coming to save you. There is no rescue plan. There is no cavalry. There is no moment of divine intervention. Either save yourself or you stay stuck. And it begins with the decision to stop waiting. Because waiting is the disease. It's the slow poison that kills more dreams than failure ever will. Waiting for motivation, waiting for the right time, waiting for approval. Every second you wait, the trap tightens. Every day you hesitate, you reinforce your own chain. You must take radical control. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. You must become the kind of man who looks in the mirror and says, I am not okay with average. I am not okay with fear. I am not okay living a life that doesn't feel like mine. That fire in your chest, that's real. That voice whispering, you're made for more, that's truth. trying to survive beneath your excuses. But truth is useless without action. Purpose means nothing if you're too soft to pursue it. And if you're waiting for someone to give you permission, congratulations, you're already conquered. Because power is taken, not handed out. Freedom is earned, not gifted, and the system will always resist the man who decides to live on his own terms. You've got to understand that your transformation will feel like war. It won't be smooth, it won't be clean, it will be gritty, lonely, painful. The old version of you, the one who obeyed, who compromised, who settled, he must die. And that death won't be comfortable. It will feel like loss, like confusion, like letting go of every identity the world convinced you to wear. But in that chaos, in that raw, unstable space is where greatness is born. Because only through destruction can you rebuild. Only through breaking patterns can you create legacy. And when the world tries to shame you for wanting more, you remind yourself, I don't exist to please the weak. I exist to rise beyond them. This isn't just about money. It's not just about power. It's about control. The ability to say, I decide how my life goes. To wake up and work because you want to, not because you have to. To speak with conviction, walk with intent, move with energy that can't be ignored. That is what they fear. That's why they flood you with noise, meaningless content, mindless pleasure, constant distraction. Because if you ever sat in silence long enough to hear your own ambition scream, you'd start taking everything back. Your time, your mind, your destiny. And once you do, you're a threat. Not because you're violent, not because you're angry, but because you're free. So take the first step, not because it's easy, but because it's right. Get disciplined not when it's convenient, but especially when it's hard. Build your body, not for validation, but because strength is silent proof that you don't run from discomfort. Study the game, master your mind, learn the systems they use to enslave, and then use them to liberate. Turn your weakness into weapons, your scars into strategy, your pain into fuel. Because every empire starts with a man who got fed up with being controlled. Every legacy begins with a decision to rise. You must become dangerous again, not reckless, but sharp. Not chaotic, but unstoppable. The kind of man who moves with purpose that can't be negotiated. You don't owe softness to a world that's hardened you. You don't owe submission to a system that profits off your silence. You owe yourself the freedom to fight, to speak, to dominate. Not someday, now. Because if you don't, you will live a life of slow decay, a life of compromise disguised as stability, a life of comfort that quietly kills every part of you that once believed you could lead, build, and conquer. And years from now, you'll look back not with pride, but with regret. The worst kind of regret. The kind that says, I knew better. I saw the trap, but I did nothing. Not you, not now. This is the line in the sand. The world is watching. The trap is trembling. You're either the man who wakes up and walks out of the prison, or the one who decorates it and calls it a home. You have no excuse. You have all the knowledge. You have the fire. The only thing left is the decision.